Hey, what's going on, everyone? So today I am super excited to share with you guys that Robinhood is coming out with fractional sharing. Now, fractional sharing isn't anything new, but this is the first time Robinhood is introducing this to their trading platform, along with a few other additional features. So I wanted to kind of dive deep into their post that they announced all of this information from, so that way you guys can understand what this all means for you when it comes to utilizing Robinhood. So as a full-fledged adult, this is the kind of stuff that actually gets me excited to read on the news. So when I saw this information come up, I thought it was a great idea to come on here and share with you guys all this information. So as I mentioned, fractional sharing is going to be coming to Robinhood. Now, it's going to be coming over the next couple of months, so depending on when you're watching it, it might be available for everybody or for some people already because they're going to be rolling it out to individuals. Now, fractional sharing is very simple and easy to understand, especially if you've actually utilized it on other platforms. So the way Robinhood is going to be getting into the fractional share game is it's going to allow you to buy shares into companies at a fraction of the cost. So if you wanted to get into Apple, instead of having to spend hundreds of dollars to buy one share, you can actually get into them for a very small amount. Now, Robinhood did mention on their website that you do have to put a minimum of $1 in to be able to buy into fractional shares, so you can't do anything less than that. But the really cool thing is that is going to get you in the door to be able to invest in companies that you might not have otherwise been able to do. So as I mentioned earlier, Robinhood isn't the first company to do this, but the reason I'm actually so excited for this is because Robinhood is one of the biggest players when it comes to investing apps. They have a huge market share when it comes to really young people getting into investing. And so the fact that they're able to not only get into investing with Robinhood, but able to get into companies at a very small dollar amount makes it a lot easier for them to want to get into investing and make it easier for them to actually grow their portfolios. So just imagine for somebody that wants to get into a company like Apple, Amazon, maybe even Google, it would cost hundreds, if not even thousands of dollars to get into these companies. But now people can get into these companies for as little as $1 or whatever amount that they can invest in at that given time, which means their money is going to be starting to work for them faster because it's going to have the ability to grow, get reinvested, compound, and even earn those fractional dividends, which is a really cool thing. Now, the way fractional dividends work is very simple. If you own, let's say, 25% of one share and they pay out dividends, you're going to get 25% of whatever that dividend is going to be, rounded up to a penny. And this is a really great thing because when you actually get your dividends earlier than having to wait to buy a full share, that means you can reinvest that money back into either that share or other companies that you have invested in and get that money rolling even faster. So this is really great news for those people who maybe don't have a lot of money to invest in every single week, or people who do have a lot of money to invest in, but really want to be able to get into those fractional shares to be able to buy into multiple companies all at once. Now, I also mentioned that Robinhood did announce that they are going to also be doing additional features that are not going to be as detailed as the fractional shares. So we're going to go into the details of the fractional shares and what that all means from Robinhood's website, but I also want to mention these other two different features that I think are going to be great. Hey, if you are getting some value out of this content so far, can you do me a favor and hit that like button down below? All right. Now let's get back into this content. The first one is going to be called the DRIP program. Now, if you've never heard about this before, it's really popular with the dividend investing community. And this essentially means that whatever dividends you're getting paid out, they are going to be reinvested for you, which is a fantastic thing because the faster your money gets back into the market, the faster it has the opportunity to compound and grow over time. Now, they don't have all the full details on this portion yet because they mentioned it's going to be coming out much later. But the really cool thing is the fact that that opportunity is going to be there means that dividend investors are going to be more likely to want to utilize Robinhood so that way their dividends can get reinvested into their portfolio as quickly as possible, because all of us know that the faster we get that money back into the portfolio, the more opportunities it has to grow. The other feature that Robinhood mentioned that will be coming out a little bit later is going to be scheduling reoccurring investments. So this is really nice for somebody who maybe is not the best at investing every single week. So if they wanted to actually set up a plan where maybe they deposit a little bit of money every 2 weeks or whenever they get paid, this is going to be a great feature for them. Or somebody who just maybe wants to have a lot more of this stuff automated for themselves. Having automatic reoccurring investments can be a really good thing because that means you are just having everything on autopilot and helping you grow your finances over time. Now, if by chance you don't have Robinhood and all this news gets you excited to test them out, go ahead and click on the link in the show notes down below. That link will actually get you a completely free stock to be able to test out the platform and see how it all works for you. As I mentioned, some of these features are not going to be available just yet, but you can get put on a wait list so that way you can be be able to start testing out this feature once it starts rolling out to everybody. So as I mentioned, I was on Robinhood's website where I was learning more about this fractional sharing. They actually have a section that goes even deeper into how the fractional shares work. It sounds very similar to how these other companies work, but I want to break this a little bit further down for you so you have a clear understanding of how these fractional shares will work on Robinhood. So let's go ahead and hop on here. This is what I see actually on the website itself. So it says fractional shares are pieces or fractions of whole shares of companies or ETFs. Since Robinhood Financial offers fractional shares, you can trade stock in ETFs in pieces of shares in addition to trading in whole share increments. Fractional shares on Robinhood could be as small as 1/1,000,000th of a share, and trading fractions in real time and commission free. And it says, when will I get fractional shares? Fractional shares will be rolling out to all customers in the next few months. You can sign up for early access in Robinhood app or website. So keep that in mind. You might not have access to this just yet, while other people might actually currently have access to it. So if that's the case, just keep patient and it will become available to you at some point. So back here on the website, it says, why do you offer fractional shares? And it says, with fractional shares, you can invest in stocks and ETFs that cost hundreds or thousands of dollars for a single share with as little as $1, kind of like we mentioned. And it says this will give you the flexibility to invest as much as you want in the companies or ETFs you believe in, or get your toes wet without committing to an entire share. Fractional shares can also help investors manage risk more conveniently. Since you are not locked into purchasing a full share, you can diversify your portfolio with small amounts of money. And again, this is the big part of it when it comes to actually having fractional shares. If you're somebody who only has a few $100s to invest in, it's really hard to want to invest in some of these bigger companies because that means 1 to maybe 2 to 3 shares altogether versus having the ability to invest in smaller portions in each of these companies and invest in some of these other smaller companies that might also diversify your portfolio even more. How do you trade fractional shares? And this is a really big important part to note if you are going to be utilizing the platform. It says you can place real-time fractional share orders in dollar amounts or share amounts, which we'll break that down here in a second. All purchases will be rounded to the nearest penny. Currently, fractional share trading is available for good for day market orders. Also, extended hours aren't supported for fractional shares. So something to keep in mind, it has to be during that day. Now, they have those two options here, which we're going to click into, and it says if you're going to trade in dollars, if you place a market order to buy in dollars or sell in dollars, you'll choose the amount of money to buy or sell for a stock. Robinhood will convert this cash amount to the equivalent number of shares, then buy or sell the stock at the best available price. Keep in mind, if you are buying or selling fractional shares, you must enter an amount at least $1. However, if you have the option to sell all, if you have less than $1 of a fractional share. So that means you have to be buying at least $1 at a time when it comes to fractional shares. But if you have anything less than $1 for some reason, or somehow maybe the values goes down, you can actually sell all of that even if it's less than $1. So it's just something to keep in mind. So the example they have here is if you bought into Meow, currently sells for $100 per share, you place a market order to buy in dollars for $10 of Meow during regular hours. Robinhood converts $10 to 0.1 share, which is about 10% of a share, based on the current market price. Then places an order to immediately purchase 0.1 shares of the best available price. And then over here, it also shares with you how to trade in shares. And it says if you place an order to buy in shares or sell in shares, you will choose the amount of shares to buy or sell. You can buy or sell as little as 0.00001 shares. Please note that orders above 0.1, which is a cent here, will be rounded to the nearest penny, and fractional shares orders under a penny will be rounded to the nearest penny. So that might seem a little confusing, but just making sure that you are following those guidelines of making sure that you are buying with the proper amount, which is having at least over $1 worth of value in those shares, which is what you have to put into. But hopefully you're putting a little bit more than $1, but at least at that amount, that's good enough to be able to get you started. So the example they have here is when you place an order to buy a share for 0.001 of Wolf during your trading hours. By the way, these are not real companies. They're just obviously completely made up. And it says your order will be executed immediately and you'll purchase 0.01 shares at the best available price. If the best price is $1,000 per share, you will pay $10 because you asked for 0.001 of that company, which equates to about $10. So For most people, it sounds like you're probably going to be buying in the dollar amounts and not the share amounts, just so that way you can spend exactly what you have available for you, which will make things a lot easier for a lot of people when it comes to buying and selling on Robinhood. Now, here's a really important thing when it comes to talking about the stocks that you can buy in fractional shares, because it's not technically going to be every single company that's available on the stock market. So Robinhood mentions here that supporting stocks are going to be stocks that are worth over $1 per share and the market capitalization over 25 million are eligible for fractional shares. If a stock isn't supported, we will let you know when placing your order. So that means that not every single company is going to be available. I would probably guess that a lot of the bigger companies will be on there for you, because most of them will of course be over 25 million in actual capitalization, and then also most of them are going to be well over that dollar marker. So just keep that in mind when going through that. Not necessarily every single company or every single ETF is going to be available for this benefit. Now, shareholder rights. This is pretty important for anybody that cares about these features. And it says voting. We will aggregate and report votes on fractional shares, which means that you will still get your voting rights based on the amount of shares that you actually own with the company, even if they're in fractional increments. Now, dividends. This is an important one for all my dividend fans out there, which if you are, let me know in the comments down below. So it says dividends will be paid to eligible shareholders who own fractional shares of a stock. Dividends will be split based on the fraction of the share stock owned, then rounded to the nearest penny. Please note that fractional shares dividends must be paid at the end of the trading day on the designated payment date. So, of course, like we mentioned earlier, this is going to be something where if you own a quarter of a share, you're going to get a quarter of the paid out dividends for that given company, which is awesome, because that means that's a quarter of a dividend that you probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise if you couldn't invest in that company. So that's a really cool feature. So now this says for transfers, you won't be able to transfer fractional shares if you initiate a full asset transfer out of Robinhood. Your fractional shares will be sold and you will receive resulting cash back. If you initiate partial asset transfer, any fractional shares you own will remain in your Robinhood security account as fractional shares. And then back here on the bottom, it also talks about stock splits. If you're curious about how stock splits will work, it's very similar like a normal stock split is. If you have a stock experience of a forward stock split or a reverse stock split, you will receive the relevant amount of fractional shares. For example, if you own 2.5 shares of Meow valued at $10, the Meow experiences a 2-for-1 forward stock split, you will now own 5 shares of a value of $5 per share for Meow. So it'll work even if you have certain different percentages for that in total. So as I mentioned earlier, if you don't already have Robinhood, check out the link in the show notes down below. That will help you get started, as well as giving you a free stock on the platform. And if you already have Robinhood, let me know in the comments down below. Are you excited for these fractional shares and the DIP program coming to Robinhood? Now, if you want to keep on learning more with Robinhood, I want you to check out these videos right over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.